Professor Rob Austin, I should like to hear about your experiences with combining art and leadership.
Art and leadership. I became interested in the arts through kind of a strange route. I have a technical background. I have engineering degrees and became interested specifically in software development and how people were playing leadership roles within software development teams. And it became clear to me that there were different kinds of leaders in software development teams and that some of them had a rather artistic bent. And trying to understand them led me to, and trying to understand their processes and how they worked and so on, led me to try to understand other art forms, led me to notice some similarities between the way artistic programmers and artistic software developers, artistic leaders of software development teams, similarities between the way they work and arts ensembles of various sorts work. So we focused mostly in the theater at first. Since then we've broadened it quite a lot, and we've looked also in detail at lots of art forms, from sculpture to oil painting to string quartets, and of course the theater.
So it doesn't seem odd, though, even if you won't try to lead painters or composers, though you have to be the agent. But of course, theater has a strong tradition for management and leadership.
Theater does indeed. It has several roles that you can point to as sort of analogous roles to those of an organizational leader. I suppose the most obvious one is the role of the director. We studied a theater company in Malvern, Pennsylvania called the People's Light Theater. And they are known for a particularly emergent style of art making. And so the task of the leader becomes quite interesting when you don't actually lead by strongly directing. It led us to some better understanding of some of the more subtle aspects of leadership, I think.
It seems then that innovation could be exemplified in the theater, and that organizations actually could learn a lot from the theater in order to improve their performance.
I think that by looking at the way that they work, so the classic director there, the one who has set the sort of intellectual leadership, is a woman named Abigail Adams. And she's a famous name. There's a famous person in history in the U.S. called Abigail Adams, wife of one of the early presidents. But Abigail Adams is known as a director who doesn't come into a situation, unlike some other directors, with a preset idea about what she's trying to achieve. She comes into it with the idea of finding within the people and the script and the process that they have there what the best thing to emerge might be, or a really good thing to emerge. I don't know if she would claim that it was the best. But the idea is anything that she came into the room with, thinking about in the beginning, is not good enough yet. So working with the people in the ensemble, she as she likes to say, I'm not taking the journey with them, I'm just accompanying them. That's the role of the leader in that sort of a creative group, she believes.
So here you have a real good paradigm for iterative leadership.
Yeah, that is, the iterative process is one of the things that we saw very prominently, and since our research has shown that it is something of a fingerprint across a wide range of creative fields, it's a bit of a sort of it's a very basic observation that people work in iterative structures in creative processes. So in a theater group, it's rehearsal. In a software development world, it's based on building iterative prototypes, a new version of the software each day. This is one of the things that compelled us, if we started to do this research, that it seemed to have this uncanny similar structure. And this caused people to even use the same language when they talked about it.
But then do you think that there will emerge the same type of problems with managing and leading as you find with leading the prima donnas and the virtuoses in the theaters?
I think there are things to be learned. Now, I think in in the People's Light and Theater context, I'm not sure that prima donnas is something that they had a lot of. I didn't see it. But there is certainly, in some of the other contexts that we've studied, it's certainly true that individuals, although they are working as part of a group, are particularly important to the creative outcomes. They play a sort of catalytic or major contributor role. And they can also be quite difficult to manage, not necessarily because they're self-centered, any of the stereotypical reasons, but because they come as complete packages. And an example that I like to use sometimes, we've seen a software developer who was a really good software developer, but he also had, he really couldn't start thinking until 4 o'clock in the afternoon, right? And so working with him in your company as a software developer meant figuring out how to make him most productive, putting him in situations in which he could excel, and that meant he came to work in the late afternoon every day and stayed until late at night. And it wasn't there when a lot of other people were there. This is something I think we see increasingly.